Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce myself. My name is Marisa Herlina, and I am a lecturer in Statistics Department of Universitas Islam Bandung in Indonesia. I am here to present my research paper for the Science and Technology Research Symposium 2020 in Bandung, Indonesia, which entitled The Natural Disasters Knowledge and Behavior of University Community on Disaster Preparedness. This research is conducted by myself and my two other colleagues, Mrs. Resvita Wulan and Mrs. Eti Kurniati from Mathematics Department of Universitas Islam Bandung. Okay, without further ado, let me begin the presentations of the paper. Okay, here's my research and here's the outline. So, yep. Indonesia is in fact the second most cases of natural disasters in the world after the US because we are located in a ring of fire, which is a frequently active seismic lines that is causing a lot of natural disasters such as earthquakes and volcanic activities. And we also have 8,467 cases of natural disasters in 2016 and 2019 with more than 20 billion victims. So in order to face this, Indonesia needs to have a good disaster mitigation and also the adaptation as well. And you can see here, this is the map of Bandung. Bandung is the capital city of West Java. And we have the potential earthquake, which is the Lembang fault earthquake. You can see that the Lembang is one of the Bandung district region that is very close to Bandung. So what happened if the Lembang fault moves, the potential damage is in the east-west direction for 22 kilometers. Surrounding area of the Lembang Falls will also damage as well. So you can see Bandung is exactly in that area. So Bandung citizens actually need to be more aware of this because they need to face this later on. So, education is an important thing to improve the disaster preparedness of the citizens. And university community, which includes lecturers, students, and staffs, have an important role in delivering the knowledge to the local community. Not only they can protect themselves, but they also can help educate people about their disaster preparedness knowledge. So we need to see how ready they are in facing the natural disasters. Yeah, so the disaster preparedness itself is one of the management processes in the disaster management process concept of risk management and is prepared before the disaster actually takes place. So what is the difference between mitigations and disaster preparedness? Mitigations is actually conducted by the government. For example, they will make policies in order to do disaster mitigations. But the disaster preparedness is an action by an individual, such as citizens. And for example, it's the action of disaster awareness, whether it's just a natural disaster knowledge or the information source of them, they can search online, and that is one of the action of disaster awareness. So, if we think about the relationship between the disaster knowledge and preparedness, disaster knowledge usually influences the individual's behavior and awareness in anticipating a disaster. So, this research divides the disaster knowledge and behavior into four variables, which are disaster knowledge, earthquake resistant building knowledge, self-protection in natural disaster. And we also add the information source. So these variables, we will have to see all the relationship between these variables so we can model them into the partial least square structural equation model. The SEM itself is widely used in various disaster preparedness model, but it has a drawback. The sample needs to be large and we need a minimum of 10 times indicators a sample. This is very troubling because the more sample that we need to obtain, which means the more expensive that we need to pay. So instead of SEM, we will use the PLSM, which only need minimum of 100 samples, regardless of how many indicators that we have. Okay, this is the methodology. We begin by determining the inner and outer models, and after that we will do the validity test of the indicators and also the latent variables, and after that we do the estimation of the models, and after that we will see the goodness of fit of tests in order to see how good the models are. And then these are the inner model and then the outer model, you can see all of the variables in here. This is the all of the latent variables explained here. Okay, so before we are going to the model, we will have to see the descriptive analysis first. This is the descriptive for the respondents. So we can see that 90% of the respondents is in the range of 18 until 22 years old, which means that the respondents are mostly millennials. And here are the best 5 indicators and the worst 5 indicators. And the best indicators is dominated by the information source variables, and then the worst 5 indicators is dominated by the earthquake knowledge indicators. So interesting finding here is the use of earthquake information source is high, so they have a variation of source information, but they still get the earthquake knowledge wrong. And we'll go to the PLSM now. The validity of the indicators is being tested by the loading. So if the loading more than 0.5, it means that they are valid. So we have these valid indicators here. We will going to use these valid indicators into the model, and then we'll see the latent variables. If it more than 0.6, then it is valid, and if it's not valid, we need to go to the loading and then see if they are something that we can remove. And it turns out that these 3 are not valid because they have negative values when they should have positive values. Okay, this is the estimations of the model. You can see here, this is the relationship between the variables, the latent variables, and we can see here that the PB and SI, the p-value is less than 0.05, which means that the information source and the disaster knowledge significantly influence the disaster preparedness on 5% significance level. And this is the final inner and outer model estimations. And here is the discussion. So, compared to the specific earthquake knowledge, the common disaster knowledge seems to be more important in disaster preparedness of university communities in Bandung case, because earthquake in Bandung city is not occurred frequently. So, flood and tornado is a natural disaster that happen frequently in Bandung, so they probably much more knowledgeable about flood and tornado. And the information source nowadays is really accessible and diverse. Due to the domination of millennials in the samples, the information source has a high score. But the conflicted results here is the earthquake knowledge indicators appear to be the worst indicators, while the information source is the best indicators. The reason why this could happen is probably they didn't utilize the information source for disaster knowledge in such detail, or they just simply forget about it. The issues need to be verified, whether they get it from formal source or informal source, which can lead them in getting wrong information or hoax if they are using the informal source. In the conclusion, the result of this paper shows that the university community, especially the millennials, the disaster knowledge, and the information source are the important variables which can influence the individual disaster preparedness. But the drawback of this model is the goodness of it is not really that good. So the main cause of this is probably there are no variable except the knowledge. So for future studies, you could include more variables that can possibly influence the disaster preparedness, such as early warning system or government policies, and etc. So here are the references. That's all for my presentations. Thank you for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.